Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, April 14th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by the People's Champ, Matt Baxendell. Back spring game tomorrow at the Horseshoe. Only 84,000 people will be there for a scrimmage. Only 84,000 due to renovations to C-Deck. Other than the 84,000 people for a scrimmage, what are you looking forward to the most tomorrow? What do you really want to see out of tomorrow's spring game?
Well, first of all, it is sold out already. You go on Ticketmaster right now, and the tickets that are available are retail tickets at like $20 a ticket before fees. So the spring game is officially sold out. Now that said, this is going to be the classic answer of the people who pay too close of attention. One of the things I'm really excited about is to see the three young tight ends in action. Everybody talks about Houston, but apparently Farrell's ahead of him. A.J. Alexander's trying to hold them both off. There's not going to be a Marcus Boss sighting because he's been recovering from injury. I think the tight end position could be very fascinating. I'm also looking forward to getting to see some of these young receivers. You know, we keep hearing that Benjamin Victor maybe isn't necessarily the number one guy, even though he's the most talented guy by a mile. I want to see Paris Campbell actually catch passes in a game. I think that's going to be really interesting to watch play out. And I'm also really looking forward to getting to see the safeties on defense because that's a big question mark. Even though I think it's pretty clear cut that Jordan Fuller is going to start next to Damon Webb. You got guys like Isaiah Pryor. You got Eric Smith, who's been hanging around fighting for a job for a while now. To me, there's a lot of very interesting position battles that are going to be fun to watch in the spring game. But then again, it's the spring game. I mean, how many times in the past have we been teased by somebody who performs extremely well in the spring game, like Torian Washington or Bam Childress, and it never carries through into the actual fall? So the spring game, in many ways, is a lot of fun. It's not necessarily the end-all be-all of how spring practice really ended up.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't want to say a death sentence, but it's almost like a bad omen if you have a huge spring game. Like Torrance Gibson was the star of last year's spring game. He was the Bam Childress Award winner. Yep. You know, we talked about Torian Washington all those years. He would tear it up, and he would pretty much disappear in the fall. So you almost don't want to have too big of a spring game. But let's talk about Terry McLaurin. He's a guy that seems to be coming on big time this spring. All the coaches have been talking about him, his teammates. Steve Wiltfong started a thread on the Front Road message board talking about his hometown guy, Terry McLaurin. Are you buying this hype? I'll tell you what, I'm buying it. I think Terry McLaurin's going to have a pretty big year with Kevin Wilson as offensive coordinator. Just are you buying this Terry McLaurin hype? Yeah,
I buy Terry McLaurin's hype for two reasons. One, Urban absolutely loved him on special teams, and his special teams guys are the ones who usually have the highest hustle level. And number two, Terry McLaurin's shown in a couple spurts last year that he could actually play receiver. He actually had a couple catches. He actually got open and got the ball, as rare as that was last year in the pathetic passing game that the Buckeyes had. So, yeah, Terry McLaurin's a guy to me that, with an improved offense, could easily have a big year. I continually feel like I'm overstating this about Paris Campbell, but I have questions about Paris Campbell's ability to haul the ball in consistently. I don't have that same issue with Terry McLaurin. And I think McLaurin's the kind of guy that, in an offense that's going to throw the ball a lot more effectively, get the ball to playmakers in space, McLaurin could be a guy who has a really big year.
And I know you and I are kind of excited about Kevin Wilson. We talked about that a little bit. We're okay with that hire. I'm joking. We love it. My question to you is, how many of these new wrinkles do you think we'll see tomorrow? Because one school of thought is they don't want to show too much at a spring game if they're working on a lot of new wrinkles for the season. Are you expecting we'll see a lot of new wrinkles or no tomorrow?
Well, as the co-conductor of the Kevin Wilson hype train, I think both you and I are more than excited just the fact that there's a confident guy calling the plays, even if it's going to be kind of vanilla. Because let's be honest here, they're not going to run anything too crazy out there. They keep talking about how they didn't change the scheme very much. Well, in a certain extent, they probably didn't. I mean, there's certain formations they're probably going to continue to use. Now, let's be honest, how they use those formations is going to be significantly different because last year OSU would run a formation out and there were 2 plays they'd run out of each of them, right? This year they'd run a formation out and they have 22 plays that they could run out of it. It makes it way more difficult for a defense to handle. So I expect we're going to see a couple plays and make the crowd go ooh and ah, and you're going to see a few deep balls that's going to get the largest Brooklyn applause ever. I mean, it's going to be a Bronx cheer if you really want to go for it every time you throw the ball deep. But I don't expect them to do anything too crazy because A, they're still working on fundamentals, and B, you don't want to show anything to anybody else. But to be honest, too, Kevin Wilson has how many years of a track record as a coordinator and coach calling plays? So I think we're going to just see these guys do their job and do it fundamentally well. And then when you want to talk about crazy stuff, we'll see that more in the fall.
Obviously, it's a huge recruiting weekend for the Buckeyes. Do you expect any commitments this weekend?
You know, here's the thing about the spring game. Every year during the spring game, people expect like all these crazy commitments and stuff. And it almost never happens. It happens the week after. The kids go home, they talk to their parents, they talk to their coaches, they announce it at home, they put it up on Twitter. I mean, you may see one, and I could be wrong because it's so hard to predict these things, but I think more often than not, you have a ton of visitors for the spring game. They're all excited, they soak it all in, and even if they commit that Sunday before they leave, we don't hear about it for a couple days. So, yeah, I expect this weekend will bear fruit, but whether it's an instant gratification kind of fruit being born is a different story.
Great stuff as always out of the People's Champ, Matt Baxendell. Programming note, we will post the spring game rosters when Ohio State releases them, so check that out. That'll probably be later today. We'll have the spring game rosters. And there's not a draft like there used to be with when Jim Tressel was here. Urban just splits his rosters up. So check Bucknuts later today for the spring game rosters. And once again, thank you to the People's Champ, Matt Baxendell, for his insights. You can catch his column every Sunday. It is The Bucket. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day and a great weekend. That's your little Buckeye swag. Best damn day in the land.